Have you ever wondered what actually happens when you stop asking the universe for predictions and instead just let it show you exactly who you are right in this moment? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating intersection of psychology, synchronicity, and our deeply human search for meaning. We're going to completely reframe our typical expectation of what it means to consult the unknown. We so often look for answers out there somewhere, but what if the truest answers are really just a reflection of what's already happening inside? Okay, let's jump right into this. Our focus today is drawn from a really profound piece of analysis titled The Vessel and the Blade. Now, right off the bat, we aren't talking about waving a magic wand today. Instead, we're exploring the reality of the impossible being made intimate. That incredible moment when our inner mind just perfectly rhymes with the outer world. Let's take a look at how this plays out on the table. So, the reading begins with a really powerful opening word, which is the Seven of Cups, reversed. Notice the stark contrast here. When it's upright, this card is all about the Great Seduction. It's this silhouette standing in front of floating chalices, and every single one offers a glittering trap. Power, forbidden knowledge, endless fantasies. It's basically that familiar feeling of being totally paralyzed by your own possibilities. But reversed? Well, the clouds literally break. The fantasies drain right back into the sky, and you're left with just one real cup on a solid table. The deck isn't fortune-telling here at all. It's confirming that the season of spectacle and illusion, it's over. It's time to choose reality. Right after that clearing of the fog, two remarkable figures appear, flanking that reversed seven. On one side, we have the Queen of Cups, the vessel. She represents water, and her mystery isn't something that's proudly displayed on the surface, it's completely contained. She is the still depths of a heart deep enough to hold mystery without spilling a single drop. And then, right on the other side, is her necessary twin, the Queen of Swords, the blade. She represents air. Now, this is a mind sharpened by loss into absolute, unwavering honesty. She cuts clean, and she completely refuses every single false illusion those clouds might try to offer. This setup brilliantly illustrates a massive shift in how we actually understand these tools. Just like the old teachers used to say, court cards are never predictions. They're stages of maturation. When you sit down for an open reading, you aren't interrogating the deck or asking it if it's going to rain on Tuesday. Instead, you're holding up your current psychological state and letting the deck describe you right back to yourself. Two queens at one table isn't a weather report for your life. It is a stunning, perfectly balanced portrait of someone integrating their deep heart and their clear mind. Let's see how this builds through the rest of the reading. When asked about the actual mechanism of this experience, the cards responded with the Nine of Wands reversed. Now, upright, this is a wounded, super vigilant guard hiding behind a wall of defenses. But reversed? The perimeter's lowered, the gate is unbarred, the watchman has finally stepped away from the wall. The source material beautifully notes here that grace cannot enter a clenched fist. The miracle of connection begins at the exact moment your exhaustion finally turns into surrender. You just stop defending against the experience. So once that wall falls, what is it that actually moves through you? The deck answered with the Wheel of Fortune. And this isn't just some nice metaphor. It's the structural reality of pure current. The wheel is entirely indifferent. It lifts kings up, and it grinds them right back down. It doesn't belong to anyone. True magic, in this sense, is simply standing at the rim of something that rotates through every single one of us, and for once, choosing not to resist the rotation. You just let it move through you. And where does that pure current ultimately deliver you? Not to a throne, not to some grand conquest, but to the Ten of Cups. Homecoming. It leaves you standing beneath a rainbow, beside a river, and a modest house, facing the everyday people you love. So the absolute crucial point here is this. A genuine current doesn't end in ego or crowns or feeling special. It leaves you with a profound sense of belonging. The fulfillment here isn't some possession you hold on to. It's literally the weather you live inside of. Now, I know exactly what the rationalists in the room are thinking right now. You're thinking, okay, you shuffled some cardboard and your hands just did what hands do. It's called apophenia. It's our biological pattern hunger. It's the mind seeing faces in the clouds and projecting intense, deep meaning onto entirely random events. And you know what? Mechanically speaking, that is absolutely true. But if you stop at the mechanics, you completely miss the actual event that's taking place.
Carl Jung actually spent 30 years wrestling with this exact problem. He eventually stopped asking, how could pieces of cardboard possibly know, and started asking a much more interesting question. Why do the human psyche and the physical world sometimes rhyme at the exact moment meaning is needed? He called this synchronicity. It's an acausal correspondence. So the supposed flaw of this method, that the answer perfectly matches your own thoughts, is actually the entire point of the exercise. In an open reading, you are the question. So of course the answer wears your shape.
Just look at the incredible loop that gets closed here. First, an experience moved through you. Then you spoke about it. You carried those words to the deck. The deck then returned those exact words to you as images. And finally, you brought those images back to be spoken as words once again. It is a perfect Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail and calling it nourishment. The inner experience seamlessly translates into the external reading and feeds right back into your own understanding. It's beautiful.
Which brings us to a phenomenon reported by nearly every single practitioner across every tradition. And honestly, it's the detail that matters far more than whether the reading worked or not. It's the inversion of agency. You go into these practices expecting to be the magician, holding the wand, imposing your will on the world, right? But the profound discovery is that you don't hold the wand. You are the wand. You step aside and something else moves through you. And humanity has known about this for a very, very long time. The vocabulary is ancient, and it's strikingly consistent across the entire globe. The Greeks called it entheos, the god within, which is actually where we get the word enthusiasm. The Sufis call it phana, the passing away of the self so something vaster can act. Taoists point to wu wei, action that moves without an actor, kind of like water flowing downhill. Pentecostals call it being filled. The deepest power you will ever touch simply does not belong to you. The very moment you try to own it, you're holding a dead thing. Because of this, ancient schools were absolutely ruthless about discernment. Like, how do you actually know if an experience is real? Well, they used a diagnostic tool. A false current is really just ego wearing light as a costume. It leaves you feeling super special, enlarged, and chosen. A higher current, on the other hand, is impersonal. It is completely indifferent to your vanity. It leaves you humbled, much quieter, more ordinary, and strangely, so much more yourself. And this brings us to a really vital warning. The first proof of magic is highly dangerous. Why? Because the ego immediately rushes in to claim it. I did this. I have power. And that is precisely when the genuine article slips away. As the source notes, the magic might be entirely real, but the story your ego builds around having done it is the very first illusion you have to shatter. Power confirms its presence, sure, but then it immediately tests what you do with that confirmation. So we have to look really closely at the aftertaste. We're not looking at the flashy fireworks of the reading, but the residue it leaves behind. When that profound moment passes, what is actually left in you? Are you just hungry for more spectacle? Does ordinary life suddenly look thin and disappointing by comparison? Or does your everyday reality look somehow lit from within? To truly understand this, our source material takes us completely out of the realm of lofty esoteric theory and drops us right into a deeply ordinary kitchen on a deeply ordinary night. Just imagine a woman named Abbey-Rose coming home. The house is completely quiet, the dogs meet her at the door and settle down. She doesn't even turn on all the lights. She just stands there at the window, looking out at the street, the trees, and the dark shape of a truck under a layer of leaves. Outside, nothing moved that shouldn't. And yet, something in the air had subtly shifted. It wasn't louder. It wasn't brighter. It was just intensely present. It was as if the impossible didn't need to announce itself with a big spectacle. It just quietly settled into the room. As the author writes, it was as if the world had remembered it was allowed to be more than one thing at once. Standing there with her hands resting on the kitchen counter, she didn't even speak aloud. The thought simply arrived. It was fully formed, incredibly simple, and absolutely certain. It didn't ask for permission. It didn't arrive with a loud demand for proof. It just settled right into the space between her ribs. This quiet, undeniable realization. Magic is real. And how exactly did reality respond to this profound realization? By remaining exactly as it was. Outside, a single leaf detached and drifted down in this slow spiral, landing without a single sound. Inside, a dog lifted its head, ears pricked for a second, and then just lay back down satisfied. The night answered by remaining quiet, ordinary, and yet fundamentally transformed forever. And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway of this explainer.
If magic just means a wand bending physics, then sure, the universe will always keep its ledgers perfectly balanced. But if magic is the experience of the impossible made intimate, the inner and outer worlds rhyming perfectly, then it has never actually left us. It just changed its costume. So the question I really want to leave you with today is this: where are you willing to look for the quiet magic hiding in plain sight, right there in your own ordinary life? Thanks so much for exploring this with me today.